Like Plastic, Episode 3. Chapter 11. Let's do some coke. The message on the post-it note is simple. I want it back. Alexei stares at the note where it's stuck to the wall of his office and he feels hollow in the pit of his stomach, realizing for the first time that this Sasaki guy really means business. The door opens and Alexei jumps with a start, but relaxes again when Harry walks in. Harry is Alexei's special assistant, a friend from school, rosy-cheeked, creepily suave, while simultaneously something of an oaf. It's easy to imagine Harry getting up to all sorts of unsavory shenanigans with the rugby team, all in the name of good, clean, heterosexual fun. Harry looks around the room in astonishment and says, "Oh, my God." He's in shock because it isn't just one post-it note. The chairs, the desk, and all four walls are covered with them. Harry starts to read some of them, and Alexei says, "It's the same thing written on everyone." "Bonkers," says Harry. "Anyway, he's staying in a suite at the Rathbone." Harry sits down on one of the post-it pasted chairs, and Alexei comes over and sits on his own. Is he now? But we have to be careful. It seems he means real business. Ditto on that. Whatever he's up to, he's a serious character. Alexei nods, deep in thought, and says almost to himself, I mean, Mikhail's in the hospital. The guy gets past all our security, breaks into my office, leaves messages. He looks around the room, still overwhelmed by the array of notes, then says to Harry, we have to find a way of playing this Sasaki guy at his own game. Harry suggests helpfully, he has his wife with him. Perfect. Alexei taps his fingers on the desk, thinking how best to use the wife. Harry looks on, expectantly at first, then slightly bemused as he waits for Alexei to come up with the obvious plan. I've got it. First thing in the morning, tell Sergei and Mickey I want the wife. Once we've got her, then I'll talk to him, and then we'll see how smart he is. Harry nods, and can't resist a theatrical sigh of relief. Immediately, though, he's struck by a thought of his own and says, but what does he want? He keeps saying he wants it back, but what is it? Alexei shakes his head, and with an air of bafflement he says, I don't have the faintest idea. He's probably just messing with our heads. You know what these Japs are like. Probably just trying to muscle in on our business. Pretty strange way of going about it, don't you think? He's Japanese. They're strange people. Kinky people, says Harry with relish. This sets Alexei off on a tangent, and he says, do you think guinea pigs are sexy? Harry gives the question some serious consideration and says, guinea pigs? No, not really. Rats could be, white rats, and bunnies. Now bunnies are sexy. Exactly. As one they say, that's why Playboy uses them. Both of them are astonished by what they see as a synchronicity bordering on genius. Great minds thinking alike and all that. Seeking to perfect the moment, Harry says, let's do some coke. Chapter 12. Lost in Selfridges. It's the following morning at the Shakirov building and plans are afoot. As Mickey and Sergei descend in one elevator, they are not aware that Anna Shakirov is on her way up in the other. They adore Anna almost as much as they despise Alexei, but they don't know she's there. They step out onto the street. They know about the cafe across the road, but they don't notice the Japanese man sitting in the window with an impressive camera. The Japanese man does not know either that these two gentlemen are setting out to kidnap his wife. They stop briefly while Mickey lights a cigar. Then they walk a little way along the street and get into a black BMW with diplomat plates. As roomy as the car is, the two of them look too big to be next to each other in the front. Sergei is behind the wheel, and only now does he realize how troublesome the cigar smoke will be. Do you have to smoke in the car? Yes, says Mickey indignantly. I can't smoke anywhere. It isn't fair. Sergei looks at him and finally accepts Mickey's pleading expression. He starts the car and pulls away, and by the time he parks across from the Rathbone, he has to open the window and lean out of it, gasping for fresh air. They sit for 20 minutes, watching people come and go. Then Yuko emerges from the hotel and jumps into a waiting cab. Sergei glances at the photograph he's been given, then back at the cab. He starts the car. That's her in that cab. He starts to follow her with some difficulty through the aggressively cluttered London traffic. There she is, says Mickey. I see her, says Sergei. They turn a corner and Mickey says again, there she is. I know, I see her, says Sergei, becoming irritated. They turn another couple of corners and Mickey says, there she. He thinks better of finishing and says, where do you think she's going? Sergei peers through the windscreen, reminding himself of the geography, and says, I think she's going to Selfridge's. You know this place? No, but my wife knows it very well. We need to find somewhere to park. A short while later, Sergei and Mickey step through the doors of Selfridge's and grind to a halt, completely overwhelmed by the shopping experience that surrounds them. Hesitantly, they start to walk forward, but an assistant quickly approaches and points to Mickey's cigar. I'm sorry, sir, but you can't smoke that in here. Mickey looks persecuted, but he takes the cigar from his mouth and, watched with disapproval by the assistant, he extinguishes it against a marble pillar before putting it back into his jacket pocket. Sergei suddenly sees Yuko ascending on an escalator and says, there she is. Sergei and Mickey set off in pursuit of Yuko, unaware of what they're up against and how fruitless this endeavor will be. Yuko is in her natural environment, whereas Sergei and Mickey might as well have been abandoned on a hostile alien planet. They catch several glimpses of her disappearing. They spend time following Japanese women who are not Yuko. In one heart-stopping moment, they pass her on escalators going in opposite directions, but are unable to catch up with her. They're completely disheartened when they unexpectedly find themselves in the basement, standing in front of a large selection of fireworks. They're overawed, like two schoolboys. I never knew they had things like this, says Sergei, clearly feeling his wife has misled him about the whole shopping experience. Mickey points at one item in particular and says, that's a really good rocket. Later, Sergei and Mickey are back in the car, the back seat of which is piled high with fireworks. They both look slightly sheepish. He won't be happy with us, says Mickey. I know, says Sergei. Mickey takes his cigar out of his pocket, but before he even has chance to light it, Sergei shouts, and stop smoking in the car. Why should I get cancer? Mickey grudgingly puts the cigar back into his pocket, but says, it's in Havana. You can't get cancer from Havana cigars. Sergei glances across at him incredulously and says, you're crazy. He'll be crazy. What are we going to tell him? Nothing. We'll get her when she goes back to the hotel. You think we can do that? Mickey, it's a hotel, not the Kremlin. Mickey nods, accepting the point, but the mention of Moscow makes both of them feel nostalgic and homesick. Everything used to be better than this. Chapter 13. A Mystery Muffin. At the same time that Yuko is unknowingly evading her would-be captors and Selfridges, Roku is still at his table in the cafe across the street from the Shakirov headquarters. His table now has several cups of lemon tea on it and an equal number of plates with untouched cookies. A waitress approaches, adopting her best dealing with flaky customer manner, and says, can I get you anything else? Distracted as he looks through his camera, Roku says, thank you. Lemon tea and a cookie, please. Another cookie, says the waitress with a hint of sarcasm. Sure you don't want to try something else? Roku wonders if he's being rude by not ordering something different and says, okay, a muffin, please, and I think peppermint tea. Thank you. What kind of muffin? Roku thinks about it and says, plum, if you please. The waitress thinks he might be joking, but realizes he isn't and says, we don't have plum muffins. Nobody has plum muffins. Oh, I'm sorry, vanilla. The waitress smiles patronizingly and says, how about I choose one for you? Thank you, says Roku, relieved that the ordeal is over. Peppermint tea and a mystery muffin coming right up. She walks away, and Roku looks through his camera just in time to see two men walking into the Shakirov building. He knows instinctively that the taller man is Alexei Shakirov himself. The shorter one, with very red cheeks, is perhaps Harry Knowlhart. Roku has guessed correctly. As Alexei and Harry ascend in the elevator, Harry is saying, "It took an age to get the cream off the sofa, but my God, was it worth it?" He winks at Alexei. "Not a night I'll forget in a hurry." A little preoccupied, Alexei says, "How much?" 1,000, says Harry casually, but that included the cream. Alexei nods favorably. The doors open and they walk along the corridor to his office. The secretary's desk outside his door is empty. In a fit of displaced anger, Alexei shouts, "I swear to God I don't know what I pay this woman for." "Fire her," says Harry helpfully. "Good idea. Sort it for me, would you, Harry?" They stroll into Alexei's office, but Alexei grinds to a halt when he sees Anna sitting in his chair behind his desk. Harry is completely unabashed, striding across the room and collapsing into his usual chair. Alexei follows grudgingly, but doesn't sit down. "Anna, how lovely to see you," says Harry, attempting charm. "I've missed you." Anna turns to Alexei and says in Russian, "Why do you hang around with this dick?" "She says you're a dick," says Alexei. Harry looks at Anna lasciviously and says, "Oh, I'll say, and you know you want it, Anna." Anna grimaces, halfway between horror and laughter, but then turns her gaze on Alexei. "What's going on? There have been some problems." "And what exactly would that have to do with you, little sis?" "Please don't be rude, Alexei, particularly in front of the staff." She throws a withering look at Harry. He replies, mockingly but clearly stung, "Ooh, you bitch." Anna smiles at him and says, "Actually, I was being polite. I didn't want to call you a blood-sucking parasite." Alexei has had enough and decides to pull rank, saying angrily, "How dare you speak to my friend like that? And how dare you come into my office and start poking your nose in where it doesn't belong? I don't care if you're my sister. Get out, or I'll call security to throw you out." There is a moment's silent standoff, during which Alexei feels he's regained his authority, and Harry is trying not to laugh on the grounds that it might be inappropriate. But all the cards are in Anna's hand. She is unruffled by her brother's outburst, and even smiles a little as she says, "Daddy sent me." Suddenly nervous, Alexei says, "Is he coming?" "He will if I tell him to. So who is Roku Sasaki, and why is he causing us problems?" Alexei stomps around the room in frustration and says, I don't know who he is." Anna shrugs nonchalantly and reaches for the phone. "I told Daddy I wouldn't be able to deal with this." "Wait," shouts Alexei desperately. "Just a minute." Anna puts the phone down and he says, "Look, I was seeing a Japanese girl, and it didn't end well. She was obsessed. Maybe he's some relative." Harry sniggers and says, "You sly old fox. Didn't tell me you'd developed a taste for sushi." "You should tell him to shut up," warns Anna. "Harry, please keep out of this. It isn't funny." Harry makes a comedy show of buttoning his lip, done in such a way that any sane person would want to smack him in the mouth. Anna looks like she wants to do just that. She doesn't, though, and says instead, "His letters say he wants something back." "I know, but I swear I have no idea what he's talking about. He's dangerous, though. He put Mikhail in the hospital. I've got people looking into it." "Have you tried talking to him?" "Of course," says Alexei indignantly. "The guy's a Fruit Loop." "Try again," says Anna as she gets up, "and try to think what he might want back. If you can't solve this problem, I'll have no choice but to call Daddy." She's already walking toward the door, and Alexei doesn't like the way Harry's staring at her, but his mind is on more pressing matters. "Don't call Daddy. I'm dealing with it, and you'll only upset him." She's already left, and Alexei looks despondent. Harry smiles at him, trying to cheer him up, but Alexei says sharply, "I need the wife by the end of today." Harry nods, apparently unaware how this statement might have anything to do with him. Chapter 14. Thank Jimmy Choo. Yuko has just arrived back from her highly successful but uneventful shopping trip and is overseeing as the bellboy deposits her large collection of shopping bags just inside the sitting room of their suite. She hands him a tip saying, "Thank you very much." "That's very kind, Mrs. Sasaki, thank you." The bellboy leaves, and Yuko looks at all the bags on the floor, momentarily at a loss what to do with them. She is distracted by a knock on the door and opens it to find two large and very wide gentlemen standing there. Sergei and Mickey step into the room, and Sergei, who's in first, takes hold of Yuko's arm. As Yuko tries to pull free, he says, "Please, you must come with us. We won't hurt you if you come with us." "But I don't want to come with you," says Yuko, struggling. "But you must," says Mickey. Sergei looks at Mickey whilst continuing to tussle with Yuko and says, "She knows that. I told her already." Yuko says, "I'm sorry, I can't come with you. My husband will be back very soon." Sergei smiles but then starts to pull her toward the door. Surprisingly, though, given the huge imbalance in size, Yuko is very difficult to move, and the two of them start to wrestle more forcefully, with Mickey looking on in redundant consternation. Sergei and Yuko fall to the floor. Yuko is trying to crawl away, and Sergei is almost on top of her, dragging her back. Struggling against his bulk, Yuko roots frantically in one of the bags she can reach, but much to her frustration, doesn't find what she's looking for. She pulls at another bag and grapples with a box from which she manages to retrieve a Jimmy Choo shoe. Sergei sees this new weapon and manages to take enough time out from the struggle to laugh sympathetically at her futile attempts to defend herself. He actually admires her tenacity, but he's also woefully underestimated her. Sergei is still smiling benignly when Yuko inserts the heel of the shoe up one of his nostrils and uses it to yank him painfully clear of her. Sergei recoils in agony, clutching his nose, and Yuko springs to her feet. Her skill with a Jimmy Choo and her subsequent display of athleticism has temporarily shocked Mickey into inaction. He lunges at her now, but Yuko sidesteps him. She reaches for a vase from a cabinet next to the door. She knows that he's too tall for her to hit him over the top of the head with it. So as Mickey grinds to a halt and turns, she smashes him in the face with the vase and immediately bundles him out of the door. Sergei is stumbling to his feet, but Yuko pounces on another shopping bag and swings it at his head, the impact knocking him back to his knees. She jumps behind him and grabs his ears, twisting them, pulling him up to his feet, and attempting to propel him toward the door. Unfortunately, she misses on the first attempt, and the top of his head thuds into the door frame. On the second pass, she manages to push him out where he stumbles into the still shell-shocked Mickey. "I'm calling security now!" Yuko slams the door and locks it. She catches her breath, looks around the room, then through the spy hole in the door. Satisfied, she straightens her clothes and seems to regain her composure remarkably quickly. She picks up the telephone. "Housekeeping, please. I'm sorry, but I broke a vase. Would you send someone to clean up and please add the cost to our bill? Thank you." Meanwhile, Sergei and Mickey stumble out of the front doors of the Rathbone Hotel. The doorman begins to approach to offer assistance, but getting a good look at them, he changes his mind. Sergei has blood pouring from his swollen nose. Mickey's face looks like he's been hit with a vase, and he's walking like a drunk. Mickey stops and lights his cigar, then follows Sergei toward the car. Once inside, they sit for a moment. Then Sergei starts the engine and pulls away. "What are we going to tell him?" "I don't know," says Sergei. "We can't tell him a little Japanese woman beat us up. So what do we tell him, and what do you think he'll do?" Simmering with anger, Sergei says, "I don't know." He boils over a little more. "And don't smoke in the car." "Okay," shouts Mickey, equally angry and frustrated. He lowers the window and throws the cigar out, but a rogue gust of wind blows it back and onto the seat behind them. Sergei steps on the brakes and both men scrabble to retrieve the cigar. It's too late. Sergei's car explodes into a pyrotechnic display as onlookers dive for cover. Even those fireworks that escape the confines of the car are wasted on the pale blue sky. Chapter 15. More Niceness Required. A waiter is making bellinis in the sitting room of Roku and Yuko's suite. Roku enters, looking tired and dejected. Yuko emerges from the bedroom at the same time. They immediately smile as if their problems have dropped away at the sight of each other. They kiss and hold each other for a moment. I missed you today, says Yuko. I missed you today, too, says Roku. Yuko breaks away and is breezily happy as she says, How about a Bellini? You and a Bellini are the only things I need right now. She wags a finger at him and says, Roku Sasaki, you are a very smooth talker. Roku laughs and they sit down. The waiter approaches with their drinks. Your Bellini, madam. Thank you so much. Your Bellini, sir. Roku hands him a tip and says, Thank you. That will be all for now. Thank you very much, sir. Enjoy your drinks. The waiter leaves. Yuko raises her glass and says, Chin chin. Bottoms up, suggests Roku, and they laugh and sip at the drinks. So what did you do today? Oh, shopping mostly. What about you? You look disappointed. Roku nods, feeling something of a fool, but seeing the funny side as he says, I spent £86 on tea and cake, and I did surveillance. It told me nothing. But tomorrow I will try again. There must be some way to reason with this man. Yuko nods sympathetically, only the merest hint in her expression that she suspects otherwise. But then Roku looks curiously across the room and says, That's a different vase next to the door. Very observant, says Yuko, not missing a beat. I knocked the other one with all my shopping bags. Oh, says Roku, seemingly disappointed by such a mundane explanation. Did you buy anything nice? I bought you a shirt, she says, brightening. Roku is touched. Thank you. Would you like to see it? With a suggestive smile, he says, I'd like to see the things you bought for you. I'd like that very much. Then perhaps we should take our drinks into the bedroom. She stands with a come-hither smile. He stands and she kisses him on the cheek, offering consolation. Don't worry, you'll think of something. Just like Brett Plastic. Roku smiles, but what he's really doing is ascending through the series in his head. At the beginning of this, he'd hoped the Brett Plastic of issue number 1 would be enough. Right now, he feels like issue number 32 is the least that's needed. Suffice to say, by issue 32, the Brett Plastic first introduced to an enthusiastic Japanese public had changed considerably. Even outwardly, there were subtle signs of the disturbing developments in his character. Indeed, for much of the fan base, exploring these incremental changes is a big part of the pleasure involved in the series. Niceness, however, remained the Brett Plastic watchword. This, then, is Brett Plastic, issue number 32,